One of the things I didn't cover with you, and I need to do that. In fact, let me do that for the rest of the class because I forgot to do it. Is I didn't go over the distance formula with you. All right. The distance formula is probably something. It might be something brand new to you. I think it's really easy. Let me show you guys my version of the distance formula. All right. Let's see. If I want to figure out the distance between, let's do a problem right here. Let's say, all right, here we go. We got 0.55, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right about there. And 1, 0. So right about there. What is the distance in between here and here? All right. Let me show you what the distance formula is. The distance formula is the square root of y2 minus y1 squared plus x2 minus x1 squared and the square root of it. Can you guys see that? All right. Now my other question is, have you seen this before? Have you seen the distance formula before? Are you afraid of that? Okay, no, you haven't seen it. Yes, I would be afraid of it. I don't like this distance formula. I hate this formula. All right? But let me show you what it's doing and where it's from. And if I can show you where it's from and what it's doing, then maybe you can understand how to use it. All right? Do you guys see a triangle anywhere? Or what if I did this now? Do you guys see a triangle now? Yeah, it's a right triangle, like this. Looks like that. You guys agree? All right. If this point over here is 5, 5, how tall is that triangle? How high is it? Because it goes up to 5, like the y value goes up to 5 over here, and it starts over here at 0. So how tall is this triangle? It's 5. All right, cool. What about how long is it? And what I mean by long is, how big is the bottom over here? This one's a little trickier. I'll give you a hint. When we're talking about the x values, no, it's not 5. When we're talking about the x values, this one goes out to 5 over here. But this point right here goes out to 1 over here. So how far across is it? 4. There we go. Exactly. Do you guys get that? Do you guys understand that? Okay. What's the only equation that you guys know about triangles? Like, it might be the only equation you've memorized. It starts with a P. There we go. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Do you guys, have you seen that before? This is called the Pythagorean theorem, right? And you can use it on right triangles. And it would say 4 squared plus 5 squared is equal to whatever this is. And I don't know what that is, but I can figure it out. In fact, let's figure it out. 4 squared is 16 plus 25 equals C squared. Right? Yeah, Raven, you need the square on that thing. So what is this? 4 plus 16, or 25 plus 16, that would be 41? Is it 41 or 31? Am I tripping out here? No, it's 41. Right, yeah, all right. Then we should square root both sides, right? To get rid of that square. By the way, use your calculators. I'm not very good at, doing square root of 41 in the top of my head. What's the square root of 41? Please use a calculator or type it into Google and Google will tell you. 1/6. No. What is 41 squared? I'm telling you, what is the square root of 41? Raven, I'm going to assume that you got the right answer. It's 6.4. Is that correct? All right. Yeah. All right. 6.4 equals C. All right. How was that? That wasn't that bad, right? Like Pythagorean theorem, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. And seeing the triangle, that wasn't that bad either, right? So the length of the hypotenuse is 6.4, right? Well, that's the distance formula. I mean, that's the distance between this point and this point, isn't it? Right? It's the length from here to here. Why is that not the distance? All right, here, let me show you guys what's going on. So this comes from the Pythagorean theorem, right? Oh yeah. I'm sorry. The answer in the multiple choice is square root of 41, but it's the same as 6.4. I'm sorry. If the answer says square root of 41, choose that one. If your options say 6.4, choose that one. I didn't know what the options were. But what I'm saying here, and I think this might be mind-blowing to you, is this distance formula, where does it come from? This distance formula is essentially the exact same thing as the Pythagorean theorem. It's just finding the hypotenuse of a triangle using the Pythagorean theorem. I mean, let's look at what the distance formula says. All right, what is y2 minus y1? That would be the height of the second point minus the height of the first point. Isn't that the distance from here to here? Right? y2 minus y1 is finding the distance from here to here. So if I plug in y2, let me plug in things into the distance formula. This is the distance formula. Ready? The y2 is 5. The y1 is 0. Okay? Plus the x2, the x value of this point right here is 5. The x1 is 1. And I got to take the square root of that thing. Let me just simplify this a little bit. 5 minus 0 is 5 squared, right? 5 minus 1 is 4 squared. Look, it's the same exact thing. This distance formula is really just a secret code for the Pythagorean theorem. Do you understand that? It's kind of like this, all right? Can I erase this? I'll keep the distance formula up there. It's kind of like this. Do you guys remember, like, what's the equation of a slope? It's m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Right? Did you guys ever memorize that? Did I ever ask you to memorize that? No, I didn't. I asked you to understand the idea that m is rise over run. It's how high you have to go divided by how far across you have to go, right? Right? And then what I would do is I would say, okay, here's the 2 points, graph them. So I have 1, comma 0 and 5, comma 1, and I want to figure out how to get from this point to this point up here. How to get from this point to that point up here. Well, then you would look at the graph and you would say, well, I would have to go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I would have to go across 4. So that would be 5 over 4. Right? The slope of this is 5 over 4. You guys agree? And it wasn't even that hard. I didn't have to memorize this crazy formula because, I mean, it made sense to me. This crazy formula was really just saying slope is rise over run. It just gave me a bunch of like y2s and y1s to worry about and forget and all of that kind of stuff. But really, if you understand the concept that slope is equal to rise over run, you can easily figure out the slope on this thing. Do you guys see? You guys understand that, right? So instead of really, I wanted you guys to at least be familiar with this formula. If I wrote it down, I want you to figure out how to use this formula. But to be honest with you, I never asked you to memorize that formula. I wanted you to understand the concept that slope equals rise over run. I'm doing the exact same thing here. All right? I forgot that with a single digit, when I make a single number, what do you do? How do you know? Oh, are you talking about like the decimal, 5 divided by 4, and how many decimal places you carry and all that kind of stuff? Justice? All right, I'm going to answer that in just a second. That's a little bit. Oh, no. This is saying m equals 5 over 4. I mean, if you look at this part right here, that means in order to get from here to here, you got to go up 5 across 4. Okay, that's it. But this lesson right here is on the distance formula. I'm not trying to get you to memorize. I'm not trying to get you to memorize this complicated equation. I just want to show it to you, say this is the distance formula. Somebody else comes along and says, and writes down the distance formula and asks you what that is. I want you to be able to say, hey, that's the distance formula. And then they say how to use it, and they say, I don't know, but I know how to do Pythagorean theorem, and that's what that really is. All of this distance formula is doing is figuring out the Pythagorean theorem. It's a tricky way. It's really trick. It's a great trick. It means like, it means like, what is the distance from here to here? And then you say, well, I could make a triangle. And then Pythagorean theorem becomes relevant. I think that's cool. So, should you memorize the distance formula? No. What I would do is if I were given 2 points and I were to ask, what is the distance between this point and that point? I would plot those 2 points. And then I would say, well, I would use just the Pythagorean theorem to figure out what the hypotenuse is. By the way, the difference between the distance formula and the Pythagorean theorem is they call this D instead of C. That literally is the only difference. The reason why they call it D is because they're talking about a distance. Yeah, literally, that is the only difference. The reason why Mr. Pythagoras called it C is because he thought it would be weird to say a squared plus b squared equals d squared. But that's the difference between the Pythagorean theorem and the distance formula. They made this variable d because it stands for distance, whereas Pythagoras just said, oh, it's a squared plus b squared plus c squared. I don't even know if he was thinking about the distance in the first place. He just knew this relationship with triangles. All right? So that's the distance formula that I failed to teach you at. Let me do one more. I think I need to do the midpoint formula. And again, the midpoint formula I guess I don't do one of those inside the quiz, but I might give this to you on the final. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But here's the midpoint formula. It's very simple. Okay. I'm not sure if you guys have physical science. All right. Here's the midpoint formula. What is a point that is in between 5, 4 and 2, 0, or 2, 1. Let's do that. What's the midpoint of this? You can barely see that, so I'm going to make it over here. 5, 4. All right, midpoint. Okay. Here's what you would do. Actually, I'm sorry. Let's make it 5, 5, wait, I'm trying to think, Put 5 here, and I'll put a 8 here. Yeah, that would be good. Okay. What is a point that is right in between this point and this point? All right. Here's what the midpoint formula is. The midpoint formula is it's x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. That's the midpoint formula. Are we cool? Midpoint formula. Now, all right, I know that you have to go. You guys can leave if you want, but let me just finish this because I think that is really important. Here's what the midpoint formula is. I don't ask you to memorize this as well, but I'm going to ask you this. Do you see a triangle? Yes, you do see a triangle. Look. I'll just draw these things like that. You see a triangle? Yeah, I see a triangle. All right. What's the height of that triangle? How high is it? No, it's not 5. Because it goes up to 5, but it comes down to 1. So what's the height of that? It's 4, right? 5 minus 1 is 4, all right. What is the length of this triangle? It goes out to 8, but it starts at 2. So how far across is this triangle? 6, awesome. Okay, here's what the midpoint formula is. What is a point that is in between 2 and 8? I'll give you a hint. It's a very simple hint. The distance between 2 and 8 is 6, so I want halfway in between there. How far away from the 2 do I have to go? If the length is 6 all the way across, I only have to go 3, because that's halfway. You guys see that? So what is the x point? What is a point that is right in between 2 and 8? I would say 5. Right? You guys agree? All right. What is a... Now, let's talk about the y values. The distance between here and here is 4. What is a point that is right in between 5 and 1? Raven, say it again. I'm sorry, I can't see that. I think I cut off. Tejas got it. It's 3. Yeah. Because if the distance between here and here is 4, then halfway is 2. So I'm going to go 2 up from 1 because that's where I'm starting, so it's 3. So what is my midpoint? What's the point that's in the middle? It's 5, comma, 3. That's it. It's just the point that is in between here and here and here and here. Another way to do that would be to average those numbers. What is a point halfway in between 8 and 2? Well, you would add 8 plus 2, and you divide it by the number of numbers you added. So 2, right? That's 10 divided by 2, also known as 5. Are we cool? That gives you your x value. What about your y value? Well, you would average those numbers. You would add 5, and you would add 1. So that would be 5 plus 1 divided by 2. That's 6 over 2. That's 3. That's what the midpoint formula is asking. In fact, this right here is saying the exact same thing as that. I'm not asking you to memorize this formula. I'm asking you to understand the concept. Because when you understand the concept, you memorize the formula automatically. And you know what? Here's my answer to you, Raven. It is easy. You said, hey, that seems easy. It is easy. We just make it a lot more complicated and scary and intimidating by giving you these crazy formulas that you've never seen. But the idea is, all I'm trying to do is find the average of these 2 points in the terms of the x, and that will give me my x value of the midpoint. I'm trying to find the average of these 2 points in the y, and that will give me my y midpoint. So I lied to you. Today I told you that today was all pure review. I think I covered 2 new concepts with you. I don't think they're that hard. And I do have them on the final exam. I apologize for putting them on there. I might actually take a look at the final exam and take them off, or maybe take a few of them off and then, keep other ones instead. Replace them with other ones. But that should cover pretty much everything you need to know on your final exam. All right. Talk to you later.